On to this now. Tomorrow marks 12 years since the Marikana massacre, where 34 striking miners were gunned down by police. The workers were demanding salary increases when the incident occurred at the Lonmin mine in the northwest. Here to reflect on the day and whether there's been any justice, let's speak now to Nomzamo Zondo, Executive Director at the Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa. Nomzamo, good to have you. Thank you very much for your time. Since 2012, you have been representing the families. At least 36 murdered mine workers would be those that you would have been representing their families. And the demand is really for accountability, but there's also been demand for civil suits in terms of compensation. A lot has been said by the state, and we have also been getting reports, for example, on compensation that has already taken place to some of the beneficiaries. I don't know whether they've managed to cover all of them. But do you get a sense that the state believes accountability is just going to stop there and there's not really much more that the state is going to take as far as accountability is concerned?
Good evening, Thabo. Thank you so much for having me. I think as far as the state is concerned, I'm sure they would have been happy if it didn't even get to the part where they had to pay the compensation. I think for the families, what's been disappointing has been the fact that so we represent, as you said, 36 families. Only 34 of those families have received compensation. And even within those families, it wasn't everyone who was compensated. And again, the compensation was only specific to the financial losses suffered by the families through the salary that the mine worker would have earned in their lifetime. And for the state, they feel that that's sufficient. They have denied the claim for an apology. They've also denied calls for compensation for any of the emotional damage that has been felt by the families, or in fact any of the grief suffered by the families. And that's really where we are stuck between us and the state. The state's position remains that really all that they have an obligation to replace is the financial loss, and that any other loss, including deep cuts which have resulted in people losing children, losing other family members, are not for the state to compensate for.
The Solicitor General and the role that the Solicitor General has played in the matter, I think it adequately, I suppose, has overseen this process?
Definitely not. I think, in fact, I think he is probably one of the leading disappointments. In 2022, the families had a closed-door meeting with the Solicitor General, where it wasn't just SERE's legal representatives, but our clients met with him at Constitutional Hill, and they shared with him their expectations. And then last year, we had him have a press briefing where he asked how long is a piece of string. And he claimed that not only is SERE bringing new claimants, but that SERE has brought in a busload of new people who are now claiming. And all of us were surprised because the 315 claimants that we've represented since 2015 when we brought the claims. We have engaged with the state about the families that have not been compensated. We had made a special time to sit with the Solicitor General, firstly with the families, and then it made ourselves available for multiple meetings for senior people within the state attorney's office. I think the reality has been that he has not really supervised the process properly, and that in effect, we sit in a position now where we feel that the matter is not being handled professionally within the state attorney's office, in the sense that you don't get a sense that they have a grasp of what the issues are.
So saying there's always a narrative of confining the fatalities to only 34 individuals. He says, in our books, it's actually 34 plus another 10 who were never accounted for. And we also need to take into account in relation to the 10 who died before the other miners. We've got no claim that has been lodged against government.
So precisely as you explained that, SERE represents 36, which is more than 34. In that 36, we represent the families of 3 mine workers who were killed by the police on the 13th of August, 2012. And we represent 33 miners who were killed by the police on the 16th of August, 2012. The Legal Resources Center represented the other family whose loved one was killed by the police on the 16th of August, Mr. Lidingwane. And then there are, over and above that 37, another 7 individuals, which include 2 security guards who are employed at Lonmin, 2 policemen who are employed at Lonmin, and 3 non-striking mine workers. We are aware as SERE that in the course of last year, the Thabo Mbeki Foundation facilitated a process where Sibanye Mine provided compensation for some of those families, but we don't have the details, and Sibanye Mine has never, I think, spoken out publicly about that.
Yeah. Then the other question, of course, is the question that you've touched on, the potential constitutional law damages. Have you lodged a claim against the state?
This also, when Seri lodged the claim in August 2015, the claim included a claim for emotional shock and suffering, which is part of the common law, and then there were two claims that form part of the part that we want the law developed. One is a claim for loss of family life, which includes the loss of spousal care for those who had lost their married partners, and the loss of family life for children. Over and above that, we've also lodged a claim for grief. We believe that our constitution guaranteed the right to life of the mine workers, and we believe that the very same constitution guaranteed the right to family life of their families. We should have ensured that their loved ones were not taken away from them at all, let alone in the violent manner that they were. And we believe that that entitles them to a claim where the state provides monetary compensation for the pain that they've lost, but also for the companionship that they've lost as a result of their actions.
So, I mean, this view that says this is a new concept which was introduced, such as constitutional damages, he says, which did not exist when the incident happened. His office, of course, didn't get instructions, he says, to deal with that.
Look, so what I can say is that they have dealt with it because they have pleaded in the last 3 months. We've received a plea from the state, and of course, their position is that this claim is not allowable in law. We believe we see it differently, and as I've said, we brought this claim 9 years ago now, when we instituted these proceedings, and we think that it would have been much better if the state attorney had engaged with us, and in fact, in continuation of the conversations that we were having with them. So, for instance, you would know about the Life Esidimeni tragedy, and that the families of the Life Esidimeni victims were provided with constitutional damages of 2 million rand per family in the arbitration that was headed by Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke, as he then was. So it's not, we haven't come up with a new concept that no one has heard of. Of course, there's been developments in the law, which we feel that this matter should be ventilated fully in the courts, or as we had expected all along, that they would come and settle this claim, understanding what their actions have caused in the life of the families.
So where's that matter sitting right now? I mean, are you heading to court? Is this going to be argued in court?
So as things stand now, papers have been filed. We are currently in a process where the case is being managed by the Deputy Judge President of the Gauteng High Court, and so we will be engaging together with them for a date for a hearing of the matter on that issue.
Yeah. Let's talk about criminal liability. I mean, who's been arrested? Is it officers? Who's been arrested? And where are those cases right now?
So there's only been 2 cases that have been prosecuted in relation to the clients that we represent. Specifically, there was a case about attempts to conceal the circumstances around the death of Mr. Mutisayutsile Sekhalala. And in that case, the police officers who had been charged were acquitted in 2021. And while that case was running, there was another case which was running for the murder and assault, the murder of the three mine workers that I mentioned earlier, those families, Seri X4, who died on the 13th of August, 2 policemen who died on the 13th of August, and 1 policeman who was seriously injured on the very same day. The people that are facing those charges are all policemen, or one of them, of course, being General Mbembe, who was the Deputy Provincial Commissioner of Northwest at the time and had been in charge of the operation on the day in question. And in fact, I think only in this early this month, there was arguments where the police are asking to be discharged from that case without having to put up a defense. The one thing that I can say definitely is that the families have felt that in the way that the NPA, the prosecutors who managed their case in the NPA, really made them feel that they could have justice, not only from the manner in which they engaged with them, but also the way they saw them managing the matter in court. The only disappointment has been that these are the only two prosecutions and that there hasn't been any progress in relation to the prosecution for the murders that happened on the 6th of August. In 2023, in engagements with the NPA, we advised that the legal team that had been in place to prosecute for the actions of the 16th had been changed, and that the new legal team would need time to get back on the case and understand fully. Again, both our clients and the surviving minors gave their cooperation. We assisted IPID and the NPA to trace witnesses. We availed ourselves for inspections. But even at this point, there is no sign of the NPA taking a decision in relation to that case.
Now, nothing, of course, prepares the families for the kind of disruption of a death of a breadwinner in the family. How has the employer responded to the family members? Has there been some intervention? The last time we spoke to Lonmin, of course, they were doing a whole lot of program in terms of community development and building new accommodation and so on and so forth, whether it was extensive enough.
So, I mean, there's two things. Lonmin has now been bought over by Sibanye Stillwater, and Sibanye Stillwater started their Marikana renewal project. In fact, one of the things that Sibanye Stillwater had said when it came on board is that it wanted to be a better mine than Lonmin. It wanted to provide our clients with healing in a way that Lonmin had not. And unfortunately, from just hearing our clients' understanding from the experience of what happened during the COVID time, to now, even in relation to offers of assistance that have come from the mine, they felt that they haven't been treated with the necessary dignity. But Sibanye has carried on with the Marikana 1608 Trust, which has been providing education to the families of the miners, including siblings and children. They've also continued the project that had been started by the AMCU Marikana Massacre Trust, which was to build houses for the family. So they've transferred houses that the mine owned in the Rustenburg area, and I think in a few instances built houses in Lesotho and in the Eastern Cape.
And at this particular point, they feel that would have been adequate, I suppose, for the destabilized families.
So I think that's the one thing that the families have called for, even from the state, is an acknowledgement. And even though Sibanye's initial posture was one of saying that you had suffered an injustice, and we want to go into conversation with you in order to make sure that you receive your healing. The experience has been very different. That at the very least there isn't that acknowledgement, and that all of these things that they have done. And earlier on, for instance, I spoke about them compensating the other 7 families. Is that they've done as, we are so good, we've done this for you. It hasn't come with the necessary appreciation that actually these actions are a ramification of actions taken by Lonmin, of police being invited onto the Lonmin mine by them, and at the end of the day, that was the police trying to buffer their side in an employer-employee dispute, which resulted in these lives being lost.
Nomzamo, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Nomzamo Zondo, Executive Director at SERI, there on the eve of the anniversary of the Marikana massacre.